What if I told you that happiness might be found in something you overlooked today? Have you ever lost your keys and, while frantically searching for them, stumbled upon something valuable you had forgotten about? Life works the same way. We're so focused on what we think is important that we miss the hidden treasures in our daily lives. Today, let's uncover these treasures together, and perhaps you'll never see an ordinary day the same way again. Have you ever found yourself in a seemingly ordinary day, with no great expectations, and something small, almost imperceptible, completely changed your perspective? Maybe it was a child's smile on the bus, or the way the sun painted the sky orange at sunset. These moments exist, hidden in our routines, waiting for us to discover them. I remember a specific day. It was an ordinary Tuesday, one of those that seemed to drag on forever. I was swamped with commitments, tired, and frustrated for not being able to keep up. But then, something happened. While walking to the bakery to buy bread, an elderly lady offered me a piece of homemade cake. She said, "You look like you need this." That unexpected kindness transformed my day. It wasn't anything grand, but it was enough to remind me that joy can arise where we least expect it, even in the toughest moments. In this video, we'll explore how to find joy in the most unexpected places. We'll discuss the importance of being present, embracing life's imperfections, and cultivating a mindset that allows us to see beauty, even in challenges. Along the way, I'll share personal stories, practical examples, and inspiring reflections to help you discover how happiness can be accessible here and now. But before we continue, I'd like to ask you a question. When was the last time you stopped to notice something simple that brought joy to your day? It could be something as small as the aroma of morning coffee or the sound of rain falling. Share your answer in the comments. Let's start this journey together. Ready to dive into the search for joy? In the next few minutes, we'll explore how small moments can have a huge impact on our lives. Let's begin by reflecting on the power of changing our perspective. Shifting perspective. Your brain might be tricking you about reality. Studies show that our brains have a negativity bias. They are wired to focus on what might go wrong. It's an evolutionary mechanism that helped our ancestors survive. But in today's world, it can be a major joy thief. A psychologist conducted an interesting experiment. He asked volunteers to write down 3 bad things and 3 good things that happened each day. Guess what? Most people only remembered the bad things. But when they were forced to look for the good, something magical happened. They realized there were more positive things than they imagined. This means that happiness might not be missing. You just might not be seeing it. Want to learn how to train your mind to see better? Let's dive in. Imagine your mind is like a window. The landscape outside, the circumstances of your life might not change, but the way you see through that window makes all the difference. Often we get stuck in negative thought patterns, focused on what's lacking But what if we could adjust this lens to see opportunities where we once saw only problems? I'll share something personal with you. A few years ago, I went through a tough phase at work. I was overwhelmed, feeling unrecognized for my efforts, and started questioning my own abilities. One day, during a particularly frustrating meeting, I realized my energy was being drained by thoughts like this: "Will never get better," or "No matter what I do, it will always be this way." That's when I decided to try an experiment. I chose to see that situation as a chance to learn something new. Instead of focusing on what was going wrong, I asked myself, what can I take from this that will help me grow? It was amazing to see how this simple shift in perspective began to transform my experience. The challenges didn't disappear, but they seemed smaller, more manageable. I started noticing small victories that I had previously ignored, positive feedback from a colleague, an idea that worked better than expected. And little by little, these moments started to accumulate, bringing a sense of progress and accomplishment. Here's a quote that always inspires me in these moments. "Happiness depends on ourselves." Aristotle. This phrase might sound simple, but it carries a powerful truth. We have the power to choose how we interpret what happens to us. Now, I want to propose a practical exercise for you. Think about a recent situation that left you frustrated or demotivated. It could be something at work, in your personal life, or even in traffic. Now, try looking at this situation from a different angle. What can you learn from it? What opportunity does it present for growth or self-discovery? If possible, write down your reflections. This is an important step in training your mind to seek the positive, even in difficult moments. And here's a practical tip for cultivating this mindset. Try starting each day with gratitude. Spend 5 minutes each morning listing 3 things you're grateful for. They can be big or small, from waking up healthy to the delicious smell of the coffee you just brewed. This simple habit helps direct your attention to the good around you, even when the day seems challenging. Before we move on, I'd like to know, when was the last time you changed your perspective on something, and it made all the difference? Share your story in the comments. Your experiences might inspire others too. Embracing imperfection. In Japan, broken objects turn to gold. There's an art form called kintsugi, where ceramicists repair broken pieces by filling the cracks with gold. The result? The object becomes even more valuable than before. This philosophy teaches us that our imperfections are not flaws to be hidden. They are essential parts of our story. Imagine someone who failed in a major project. At the time, it seemed like the end. But it was that failure that pushed them onto a new and unexpected path, which became their true passion. Now think, what is your golden crack? At what moment did something that seemed like a mistake become a fundamental part of your journey? Life doesn't come with a perfect instruction manual, and that's something we often forget. We live in an era where social media bombards us with images of seemingly perfect lives, sculpted bodies, successful careers, exotic travels. But the truth is, no one lives in a state of constant perfection. And you know what? That's liberating. I remember a time when I was too hard on myself for everything, from work to personal relationships. If I made a mistake, I'd become obsessed with fixing it or avoid talking about it altogether. Until one day, during a conversation with a friend, he said something I'll never forget. Mistakes are like scars. They tell the story of who you are and what you've overcome. That made me pause and think. I was so focused on avoiding failures that I didn't realize they were an essential part of my journey. This idea resonates deeply with Buddhism, which teaches that impermanence and imperfection are natural characteristics of life. In Japan, kintsugi, its cracks are celebrated, not hidden. This metaphor is powerful. Our failures and imperfections can become sources of beauty and strength if we learn to embrace them. Let's reflect on this with a quote from the Stoic philosopher Seneca. Adversity awakens qualities in us that, in prosperous circumstances, would have lain dormant. This means that difficult moments, mistakes, and setbacks are not just obstacles. They are opportunities in disguise for us to become better versions of ourselves. I want to share a story that illustrates this. A few years ago, I met a woman named Clara. She had lost her job during a financial crisis and was devastated. At first, she saw it as the end of the world. But instead of giving in to despair, Clara decided to use that time to explore an old passion: painting. She started creating small artworks and, little by little, turned this hobby into a new career. Today, she lives off her art and says she would never have discovered this path if she hadn't gone through that difficult moment. That's the power of embracing imperfection. When we stop fighting against things we can't control and start accepting life as it is, full of ups and downs, we find space for creativity, growth, and even humor. Here's an exercise for you. Think about something you consider a mistake or failure in your life. Now, try seeing this moment in a new light. What lessons did you learn from it? How did it shape who you are today? Write down your reflections. This process can help you transform something negative into a source of wisdom. And here's a challenge. Try finding humor in unexpected situations. Life is full of absurd and unpredictable moments. Laughing at them not only relieves tension but also connects us to our humanity. Remember, no one gets through life without stumbling a few times. The trick is to learn to fall with grace, and maybe even laugh in the process. Before we move on, I want to invite you to share. What was a situation where something went wrong but ended up leading to something unexpectedly positive? Your stories might inspire others to see their own challenges in a new light. Finding joy in simple things. Your brain has a hidden superpower, and you're not using it. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains that mindfulness can physically change the brain, reducing stress and increasing happiness. The key? You don't need to meditate for hours. Just truly notice what's happening around you. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the smell of hot coffee in the morning, the sound of rain tapping against the window, the texture of a soft blanket on a cold day. Did you feel something? Your brain just released dopamine simply by noticing these details. The challenge now is to turn this into a habit. Shall we try? There's a quiet wisdom in Taoism that always deeply touches me. The idea that the extraordinary resides in the ordinary. Lao Tzu, the Taoist philosopher, once said, "Simplicity, patience, and compassion are the three treasures of life." These words remind us that we don't need to seek happiness in great achievements or extraordinary events. It's within our reach, in the simplest things of everyday life. Think for a moment. When was the last time you truly appreciated the taste of a meal, or felt the warmth of the sun on your skin, without worrying about what you were doing next? Our minds are often so busy planning the future or reliving the past that we miss the small wonders happening right in front of us. I remember a specific morning that made me realize this. It was a cold winter day, and I was in a rush to leave the house. But while having my breakfast, something made me pause. Maybe it was the steam slowly rising from the cup, or the rich aroma of the black coffee I had brewed. I decided at that moment not just to drink the coffee, but to savor each sip. It was an almost meditative experience, and I realized that those few minutes were enough to calm my mind and prepare me for the day. These simple moments, a hot cup of coffee, a peaceful walk, the sound of rain falling on the roof, have the power to ground us in the present. They remind us that happiness doesn't need to be something grand or distant. It can be found in everyday gestures, if we're willing to pay attention. Let's explore some practical ways to cultivate this connection with the simple. Create a joy list. Grab a notebook or open a note on your phone and start listing activities or moments that bring genuine happiness. It can be anything: reading a book, watching the sunset, cooking a special meal. Having this list handy is a powerful way to remind yourself of what truly matters when the day feels monotonous or stressful. Practice intentional pauses. Throughout the day, take a few minutes to do something that brings you pleasure. It could be sipping a calming tea, observing nature through the window, or simply taking deep breaths. These pauses help break the rush and reconnect you with the present moment. Slow down. Often, we're so focused on doing that we forget to be. Try performing a mundane task, like washing dishes or making the bed, with full presence. Feel the texture of the objects. Listen to the sounds around you, and observe how these small actions can become sources of inner peace. A quote that sums up this idea comes from the American poet Walt Whitman. "Keep your eyes open to the wonders of the earth, for they are all around you at every moment." To wrap up this topic, I want to propose a practical challenge. For the next 7 days, choose an hour each day to dedicate to something simple that brings you joy. It could be reading a few pages of a book before bed, taking a walk around the block, or even drawing something random. After a week, reflect. How did these moments impact your mood and overall perspective? And here's a question to ponder. What is the simplest thing that has ever brought joy to your day? Share in the comments. Your answers might inspire others to better appreciate what they have within reach. We've reached the crucial point of this journey, the invitation to turn everything we've discussed so far into real action. Reflection is powerful, but without application, it remains just an idea floating in the air. Now it's time for you to take the next step, and I'm here to guide you through this process. Remember that moment when something unexpected brought joy to your day? Or when a change in perspective transformed a difficult situation into an opportunity? These moments don't happen by chance. They arise when we decide to be present, embrace imperfection, and seek beauty in simple things. But this requires practice. It requires intention. And, most importantly, it requires courage to step out of your comfort zone. I want to share a story that illustrates this call to action. A few years ago, I met a man named Roberto. He was a successful executive but lived overwhelmed and dissatisfied. One day, he decided to do something radical. He started setting aside 15 minutes each day to walk alone in a park near his home. At first, it was difficult. His mind was full of worries and to-do lists. But over time, that walk became a sacred ritual. He began to notice details he had previously ignored. The singing of birds, the movement of leaves in the wind, the smiles of strangers. This small habit completely changed his relationship with the world around him. Today, he says those 15 minutes are the most valuable part of his day. Now it's your turn. I challenge you to embrace the unexpected. In the coming days, I propose that you do something outside your usual routine. It could be visiting a new place, talking to someone you normally wouldn't, or even trying an activity you've always wanted to, but never had the courage. The goal isn't to do something grand. It's to create space for joy to arise where you least expect it. And here's a quote to inspire your journey. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. Dalai Lama. But don't stop there. Throughout this experience, I invite you to document your thoughts and feelings. Write about what you observed, how you felt, and what you learned. If possible, share your reflections in the comments. Your story might inspire others to take their first step as well. Now, a simple ritual can help reprogram your brain for happiness. Try this for the next 7 days. Choose a moment each day to observe something simple and pleasant. Note it down or record it somehow. It could be a note on your phone, a photo, or even an audio clip. At the end of the week, review everything. You'll realize that happiness doesn't come from big changes. It's already present, waiting to be noticed. What do you choose to see today? An ordinary routine or a day full of hidden treasures? What was the last simple moment that brought joy to your day? Let's share and inspire each other. As you've seen throughout the video, life is indeed unpredictable and often seems chaotic. But within this chaos, there's room for beauty, connection, and growth. You don't need to have all the answers now. All you need to do is start, one small step at a time. If you could choose one thing to change about how you see the world today, what would it be? Share in the comments. This question could be the starting point for a bigger transformation. What was the last time something simple brought joy to your day? Have you noticed how changing your perspective can transform a challenging situation? What small habit can you adopt to train your mind to see the positive side of life? If this video resonated with you, leave a like and share your experience in the comments. In the first pinned comment, I've left a link to an ebook with practical strategies to reprogram your mind for happiness. And don't go yet. Choose one of the recommended videos on the screen to continue your growth journey. See you in the next video.